Okay, so I wanted to do something for you guys on um, Zotero, which is a publication manager or a reference manager, as well as a little bit on how to do um, literature searches in the three main, well, what I consider to be the main databases, particularly around science. All right, so starting you off with reference manager. So what a reference manager does is it allows you to collect and maintain all of your references. And then when you're ready to add them into a paper, you can add it in directly and not have to go back and find them all over the place. And so I'll get a bit more into this part of it in just a second. But the tool that I want to introduce you to again is called Zotero. And so you can get it from zotero.org. If you don't have it, you can go here. You can download it. When you download it, you'll need to download both Zotero itself and the connector. So the Zotero is the desktop component of it that I just showed you. The connector allows it to connect directly into your browser and will give you a little icon like this, where if the web page that you're on has content that could be saved to Zotero, you're able to click on it and add it directly into Zotero. If you don't use Chrome, there are connectors for other browsers. As you can see there, and you can install any one of those depending on what browser that you're in. I'm not going to do a whole lot on installing Zotero. One good place for you to look for some guidance on that is going to be in documentation. They've got the installation, the quick start guide. They've got tons of community developed video tutorials. You can also just go to Google and Google install Zotero and go to videos. And there's a bunch of really good ones that are out there that have been developed at a bunch of different schools in particular. Most of them are in the less than 5-minute range. This one that's 241 or 240 is actually pretty good. And will allow you to install and get everything set up the way you need it to run. Now, how do you use Zotero? So once Zotero is installed, of course, if it's your first time, you'll see something if you like this. You can organize your references into what they call collections that are within your library. So in this case, the whole of my library has all of the papers that I've put into Zotero, but you can also parse these out by topics. And I tend to like to do this, particularly when I'm doing my reading and adding to Zotero, because of the way that it actually reads the last folder that it was in when you're adding in new references. And I'll show you that in just a second. So for the purposes of this, I will make a new collection and I will call it demo. All right, and right now, as you can see, there's nothing in it. But let's say I'm out doing a literature search in PubMed and I'm looking at the topic of cognitive load. And I say, oh, wait, I like this paper. I want to check this out. And I've read it, and it's something that I may want to reference again later. I can open up the reference to it in PubMed, and I can go up to my little Zotero icon, save to Zotero. And it saves it to whatever that last folder was. You do get the opportunity to change it if you want. I just find that it's easier to just have Zotero already set to the folder that it wants to go to. And then voila, if we look back in, try this one more time. Of course, it won't work this time. Try it. The other thing that I wanted to show is that you could actually do it from the paper itself. Supposing we opened it, so let's try it from here first, so I didn't mess with it. Same deal, save to Zotero. This time it saved it, and you can see it in there. I do want to show you that it does work from PubMed as well, though. So we'll go back to this. This time I won't interrupt it, and we'll hit it. And now you can see both of them there. Depending on where you do your referencing from, you'll get slightly different information, but the core stuff that you need for your references, your title, your authors, your publication volume, all of that stuff stays. And so it doesn't really matter which one of those you do it from. As a matter of habit, I tend to do it from the article itself and not from the reference page within PubMed or any of the other databases. So having then got the information or got the reference into my reference manager, what do I do with it? Well, what I do is I write my paper. So now I'm writing my paper and I type a few words and then I need to insert a reference. If you installed everything correctly in your Word, you should see Zotero as an option, and you can add and edit citation. The first time you open it, it will ask you what format you want the reference to be in. So for the first time you do this, let's go ahead and just use the nature format. And now you'll see this red oval come up, and you can put in information on the article that you might want to reference. So let's do as the term that we want to search for. It'll start searching through my Zotero library for articles that have the word public in it. And so let's say I wanted to use this one. Hit it. And now I have the superscript for it, but I don't see my reference. First time you do this, you'll also have to hit add and edit bibliography. And now you get your bibliographical reference in there properly formatted for the journal format that you said that you wanted. I can now add subsequent text. And I can add in another citation. And this time it updates the bibliography as well. And it will do that going forward. I can also add in more than one at a time. Let's do food for the moment. And we will do, in this case, this one, that one. And we can add in multiples. And apparently I added in one more than once and it caught it. So it used that same number twice because that's what this particular journal format requires. So that's using it in Word. It also works in Google Docs. So create a new Google document in this case. And we can say some stuff. And now a couple of places where I can go for Zotero, I can go here with the words up top or just right on my command bar. Same deal, this is the first time I'm using it in this document, and I'll take a different format this time. So let's go APA. And we'll take this one. Same deal. It's the first time that I am adding in a reference, so it doesn't give me the bibliography. I have to go add or edit bibliography. And now it's in properly formatted. And if I want to use more than one reference at a time, we can do that too. And it updates my bibliography as I go along. Now, there is one practical point that I do want to point out, and that is when you are going through and adding references, if I have to add, say I had to add another one up here, what I very often have to do is add them as a bunch of singles as I go through the article, I mean, as I go through the paper, right? So if I come back up here and they've updated features. So I don't have to do that anymore. So now when you click back on your reference, if you want to add another one later, you can just do it, which is a phenomenal update to the program. So anyway, that is a quick overview of Zotero, at least enough to get you to be able to use it functionally. Tons of videos out there. If you have some specific questions with it, you can also hit me up for some help. But now let's move on to searching some databases. All right, so I am inside the library website already, library.vsu.edu. We'll search for databases, and then we can go alphabetically. We can do P for PubMed, E for EBSCOhost, and W for Web of Science. I do recommend, though, that you go ahead and save the databases that you want as bookmarks on your computer. It just speeds things up, right? So if we are in PubMed, when you come into PubMed, you actually see, not that, you actually see this. All right, and it just gets you straight to your search function. So if you wanted to search for something, you just drop it straight in. And I did not want that whole thing. Let's just do this the whole thing. So we'll just drop in cognitive load, and it's searched, and it brought me over 8,000 articles related to cognitive load. Now, let's point out a few things in terms of some of the features that we see down the left. One of the things it does is sort of shows you when articles were published on it. So if you wanted to find when the most research on a particular topic was done, you can narrow it down, sort of take out processing time and really focus in on some things. You can use this for making sure that at the very least an abstract is available. You click on this for free full text. So if you just want free articles on it, you can limit it to those. The other thing you can do is say, all right, well, is there full text available? Because maybe the library itself has a subscription. You can click full text as well. Another set of selections that I tend to like when I'm initially getting oriented to a topic is the review and or not really potentially and systematic review, right? So then you can find articles that were review articles or systematic reviews to sort of give you a overall feel for the state of the literature at a particular time. Again, I find those to be really good for getting a good overview of what the literature is at the moment. Once you find articles that you're interested in, you can get some component of the abstract there. You can choose how they are sorted. So we can go under display options here. We can sort by best match. I tend to do sort by either most recent or publication date. You can change the number that are on the page. You can also change the format that it shows you. So if you do format abstract, then you will get the full abstract, but you'll get a whole lot more stuff on the page at a time. One advantage of going With the abstract though, is it actually gives you also your full text links straight on the opening page to make it easier, as opposed to having to go into the article itself and then pulling the full text links from over there. So as a quick note, I tend to find going in the abstract format gives me the most information quicker, and I tend to actually go that route when I use PubMed. Again, I tend to sort by, so the view I use the most is sort by most recent. I will tend to show close up to 100 on my screen and just roll my way through it. While I am in PubMed, so one of the things you just saw was the disadvantage of going with the longer format, and that is that it takes longer. Now, while I'm in PubMed, I want to show you some things that relate to searches. And so we will go to the advanced search so we can see this. All right, so when I enter the term cognitive load, the way that I just entered it, it searched for the terms cognitive and load, but it searched for both of them. So anything that had cognitive, anything that had load got brought up, right? And so when I did that, I got over 8,000 articles back. If I wanted just that phrase, I needed to use. Whoops. So now we'll add that and we will search. Yeah, I've got some filters on this turn. All right, so now if I go back and look, that query, instead of getting me 8,815, got me 2,700 when I just used that phrase. One quick note here, you can also, when you're in the advanced, limit by a number of different fields. I find the author field to be particularly helpful if I know somebody's stuff that I'm looking for. Another way to sort of limit this down a bit is to use just searching in the titles. Title abstract actually doesn't end up being far from being just a all field search. But if you do want to limit down by just where the words that you're looking for is in the title, that's also helpful. The other piece that I want to get to you now, though, is your joining words, and, or, and not. So we'll go back to our phrase that we liked, cognitive load. Put that in. And now, what if we want to look for, now what we get is this option for add with and, the next phrase, add with or add with not. So with the word and, what you're saying is that both of your search terms have to be present in the stuff that come in the results that come up, right? So if I say imaging, because I'm interested in articles where they've looked at the brain in studies of cognitive load, then I can go and, right? And I will add that with an and we'll search. And now what I get is, in this case, 355 articles that met both of those requirements. Now I want to contrast that with or. So now in this case, what I'm looking for is any article that has the phrase cognitive load or the phrase or the word imaging. So now we run that search, and now we get over 2 million articles, right? Because any one of these can come along. And one of the other things that you'll find that PubMed does is it takes similar words as well. So in this case, it also looks for image. The final one that I want to show you is not. So in the case of not, what I'm saying is every article that has the phrase cognitive load, but does not have the phrase imaging. So it's a subtractive sort of deal. And we get a much smaller search than when we just search cognitive load alone. So those are some quick hitters on some additional ways to use PubMed and to refine your searches within PubMed. What we'll see as we go through the next two databases is that those rules are very similar in those databases as well. Let's skip over to EBSCOhost. All right, so EBSCOhost, click on EBSCO Research Databases, and then you can click on EBSCOhost Web. And sometimes if it's your initial login, it may ask you to log into VSU's library first. And if they gives you that screen, just log in with your Active Directory credentials. All right, so when you go into EBSCOhost, you get presented with all of the databases that are within EBSCOhost. It's a lot of scrolling. You probably don't want to do that, and I understand it. All right, so at this point, we can select, deselect all. Note, you should note this, that selecting all databases for search will result in a slow response time. So anytime you want to do this, it's got to search across all those databases that you now checked to identify and find whatever articles might be relevant. But we'll continue there for a moment. Now we're in our EBSCOhost search area, right? And so one of the things I want to note is that you can, instead of just selecting one field at a time, like you did in PubMed, it opens up multiple fields. You don't have to use them all. Again, you get your and or not methodology here as options for when you are linking searches. The other thing that you get is ways that you can limit your searches. One is general, and then they offer one for every single one of the databases that you select. As you can imagine, that can be rather onerous, right? So you have a couple options here. So one is to not use any of the special limiters and really only deal with what's up here. And in that case, what ends up being the most relevant is whether or not you want to limit your results to full text, limit your results to peer-reviewed journals, and limit to whatever time period that you might be interested in limiting to. Now, as just a point of practice, I almost never limit my published dates, but I just tend to sort from newest to oldest. Now, another thing you can do is go up here and choose databases. And now you can do it in a much more concise format, right? So we can deselect all, and then we can focus on searches that are relevant to what we're doing. The ones I use the most: academic search, complete, the APA databases. I tend to use ERIC. Over here, I tend to use, where is Medline? I tend to use Medline, and that might be it. That's it. All right, so we'll click OK. And now we can look here, and these special limiters are much fewer since we're going through fewer databases. But we can still do load, and we'll do our search. And we get our articles. Where full text is available, you can link it right off the bottom. So this is one of the places where I'm much less of a fan of EBSCOhost because of the weird way that they embed their PDFs. You can always download it, and so that's fine. But I tend to be less of a fan of theirs because of this specific output. If you go to the articles themselves, or you click on the articles themselves, you can still add them to Zotero. We see that's there. All of our main pieces of information about the publication are there. So that's good. And just like before, you can sort on a number of different things. Again, I tend to go date newest. You can sort on how it views it for you. You tend to not get the option to do full abstracts on the search page in EBSCO. The most that you'll get is this apply, is this detail. Ooh, another new update. So now I guess you can do it here too, which is good. You can get whole abstracts. So if you like to see the whole abstract in your search, looks like there's been an update in EBSCO to allow you to do that there as well. You can create an account in EBSCO to help you to save references or searches that you like to repeat automatically as well. And the last one that I will show you is Web of Science. So of course, Web of Science. Most of the stuff is similar to the others. So we'll drop in our search, cognitive load, so you can see this. Information down the left, your filters. Again, you get the opportunity to do review articles as a filter, especially when you're new to a particular area. They don't have quite the same as the free full text. The closest to it is the open access, because generally that's the term that we're substituting for free these days. Other thing you can use, even though I would probably try to eliminate, is proceedings papers and meeting abstracts, particularly meeting abstracts, because you can't see all of those. I mean, all you get is an abstract because you weren't actually at the conference, so you don't get the full bit of information. So when those show up, you tend to want to sort of blow past those. Another piece that I want to introduce to you, though, in Web of Science is the idea of the wildcard, right? So in the case of a wildcard, what that is a symbol that you put in to say, substitute everything else basically beyond this point. So I will show you what I'm talking about exactly. Right, so suppose I am interested in maybe cognition, right? And I can run that query. Actually, let's just do that. So run cognition, 192,000 articles. But what if some of the stuff that I was interested in might be covered under the word cognitive? Ah, 631,000 articles. So maybe I missed some stuff. What if I want a way to do this where I might catch either one? Well, this is where we can use wildcards. In this case, I will put a star after the T. That way, whether it was ION or IVE or any other potential permutation, I capture it. And now I get everything, right? So if I look through here, what's highlighted: cognitive, rolling through that, cognitively, cognition. So we get all the different formats. So wildcards are also very helpful in terms of being able to do searches and capture all of the information that you want. Again, we can do a little bit of stuff with the way that things are displayed. So in this case, we're going by relevance. Again, I usually do newest first, so I can find the most recent stuff. You don't get a whole lot here in terms of changing the view. So you sort of here on the limited synopsis, but not quite the full abstract. As with the others, you can go into the page for the article and you can add it to Zotero. So again, we got all of our major data points that we want for putting into our references. And then you can get to the full text. I do like Web of Science for following up on papers. There are two particular things that I like. So one is citations for when a paper has been cited. So we'll get to one that was in a second. The other is going to be related records. And that's going to be references that share or articles that share references with the article that you just linked off of. So in other words, this one has 7 shares. So this article shared 7 references with the article that we originally clicked from. And you can also, I believe, yep, so this is actually sorted in descending order of shared references. So then the one that would be the most alike would be this one, and then least alike as we go down. So I do want to go into this for just a second. And now, because that's shared references. So let's find an article that is a couple of years old. So in this case, this article has been cited twice. So I can click on that and then get to the articles that cited. As I've mentioned to most of you in class, be careful with this. You can get yourself going down rabbit holes, but it is a good way to sort of make sure that when you are particularly doing your literature reviews for your papers, that you are capturing the actual state of the literature on whatever topic that you're writing on. Hope this is helpful, and happy to answer you guys' questions either by email or in class.